Facebook Live, Desmond. This might be episode 21. All right,
So-
go again. Are we live now?
We are live.
Hold on, let me start this one again.
Yeah. Well, just keep it rolling. It'll be fun.
Okay, I can edit it.
It'll be fun.
Darren,
You know what? I've been known to screw things up occasionally, just not very often.
episode 21. This podcast is now of legal podcast age.
Yes, legal drinking age. Yes.
With that, we've already
I feel like
cracked.
we just said that.
Yeah, we've already cracked it. But my good friend Kyle Carden over at EJ Gallo Brands gave me a case of some Lucky One lemonade, which is from the people of High Noon, collaboration with Dave Portnoy this summer. What he wants to do with this, with some of the proceeds, is dedicate or donate, at least $1 million to pet rescue foundations from the proceeds they make this summer.
And on the can is the famous Miss Peaches. He's
Yes.
so in love with that dog.
He is. She's a good bitch.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
One sip, everybody knows the rules.
Yep.
Cheers.
Here we go.
We're going to call this episode 21, 4 Pints and a Wedding.
4 pints and a wedding.
For everyone that's in the know, they know what that title kind of alludes to.
I'm in the know twice now.
You are.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Let it be said, let it be heard.
All right.
Talking points of the week in this middle May 2025. We're going to talk some airport blah blah because you and I still both work there. Mm-hmm. Some MDW for the acronym folk is Memorial Day weekend. Some wrap up EDC numbers. Boring Company expands in Las Vegas. Celebrity bartenders, celebrity liquor brands, and we're not referring to ourselves as celebrity bartenders, so let's just take that off the shelf right now.
Schmucks. A couple schmucks is what we refer to ourselves as.
Yeah, the non-Yiddish folk. Yiddish. Some Foo Fighters talk real quick. Cheers, the latest episode.
Yeah.
And then I got a Perump story to start in a second. And
All right.
a little Scotty G take on some things because we both like listening to him.
What were you up to this week, Chris?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, Darren. Survey and I went up to Perump in the last week because we needed to do some DMV transactions. And a little inside tip if you live in Vegas. In the pandemic, they excluded anyone that lived in Clark County from going up there because they just flooded the time, like the appointment times. Mm-hmm. And so nobody in Nye County could get into an appointment, but they've since become a little lax. But if you have to do any DMV of sorts, it's about a 3-week quicker turnaround time when you're setting up an appointment on the site. We went up there because we wouldn't have been able to get in until like late May, early June, whereas a week ago, tomorrow we went up there. Got the DMV sorted, took about 45 minutes. We got there 20 minutes after our call time, no big deal, 45 minutes to get everything sorted. And then she and I went to a little place you and I went to a couple months ago before you purchased this very bar that we stand behind.
Yes,
Do you remember the VFW?
Of course.
I
love that place, yeah.
Wasn't it great?
Very homey, very reasonable priced, nice people.
Very, very fair. And this VFW, I found out this past time, was on Bar Rescue, season 8, episode 8. So I went back and subsequently watched that. Now I ended up talking to Marty, who was the post commander at the time, and I believe was still there. So he at least has some capacity of leadership there. His associate Steve, who is in some degree of management there. And then Tabitha was our bartender. We got there late morning. Again, drink prices very, very fair. Someone hit a jackpot while we were there.
Woo! What did
And
it?
it was a Keno hit, but it was an older woman, and she bought the whole bar around.
Nice.
Marty and I was telling a couple people on the phone this week. Marty and Steve are like, take a look, walk around. The ground is a lot bigger than what you and I saw.
Yeah.
So
I saw your pictures.
okay, yeah, that's right. So we walked around and checked it out. We talked about a couple collaborations. He had a Lang smoker from Tennessee, which in the barbecue smoke world is a well-to-do brand. I'm like, what do you do with that, buddy? And then they told me that the gentleman that donated the land before it was built used to live up on State Road 160, and every evening he would ride his tractor down drunk and have his beverages, because what says Nye County better than riding your tractor to the bar?
Nice.
Yeah, so I think we've got some future stuff with them. But again, a quick shout out to Marty, Steve, and Tabby that day. They were great. Props to you if you guys watch this. I'm going to follow up with them, as I was telling you before we recorded. And I don't sleep on Pahrump.
Don't sleep on it.
It's 50 miles west of us, but it's a nice little drive. Obviously, be responsible. One of the wineries has cottages. There are some casinos up there with lodging. There is no rideshare component.
There is an eclectic bunch of people that live up there.
Yeah.
You know, you have obviously your Westerners that just want to get away from it all, but you also have like a kind of like a, I want to say like a thriving artist kind of type community, like a little bit like a hippie commune kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, before you and I went up there a couple months ago, I've never really explored it. I was there a long time ago, and it's definitely got more amenities. I mean, there's the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. You know, there's a Smith's and a Walmart. So for people that are looking to go over the hump to Pahrump, I mean, you know, it's happening. You know, I mean, the Vegas Valley is being built out. People that still want some degree of value or whatever, I mean, they're looking towards that, and it's, you know, it's kind of a free your mind and clear your mind as you kind of drive over the hill. You know,
Nice.
And we talked about that, about some other things too.
Yeah.
To be continued.
To be continued.
So yeah, don't sleep on it. Check it out, and then maybe we'll do something up there again soon.
I'm sure.
Did you hear some of the airport news this week?
Well, before we go there, I wanted to just mention to you real quick. I went to Del Mar, California. Went and saw OK Go. You know, the guys that did the cool treadmill commercial like a million years ago, like 25 years ago.
Okay.
One of the most popular YouTube videos of all time, I believe. I think it had to get re-uploaded though, so it's not, but it is.
Did you drink on the treadmill?
No, but I did go to a lovely bar. I don't remember the name of it. Right before in Del Mar, California. Nice place. They had a couple. It was one of the family of Dukes. It was Jake's.
Oh, okay.
So Dukes, which is famous in Hawaii.
Yep.
They have a couple locations here in the States as well, but they had Jake's, which is in Del Mar, California. A couple versions of Mai Tai, which there was the Duke's Mai Tai and the Jake's Mai Tai. I had both those.
Okay.
Phenomenal. They're pretty damn good. Then I went to Disney, as I do. You know, I'm a Disney guy.
Yep. Never.
I went to the there's a new lounge that kind of reopened in the Disneyland Hotel, and they're doing some infusions and some crazy stuff. And I think I messaged you about it. I had a bourbon that was infused with the shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah.
Sautéed in oil and salt and pepper, infused Woodford Reserve. And I didn't have the old fashioned. He just let me try a sample of it. But let me tell you, like I had one sip of that, and wow, man, it changed my whole palate. Like I couldn't get it off my lips for the life of me.
Like in a good way or a bad way?
Like in not a good way, because it's just mushroom and bourbon. But I will say that if I had the old fashioned, they had a brown sugar almond or brown sugar simple syrup, and then they had an almond bitters that they put in there for the old fashioned. And man, if you had a nice juicy steak with that, it would probably be pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But,
so why didn't you? Not enough time?
No. I just, I was just budgeting myself, trying to be budget conscious, because when you go to these places, the Disneyland Hotel, I did have a tequila old fashioned. It was like a chili pepper one, smoked. It was pretty good. Yeah. $24 for that. So kind of Vegas pricey, maybe a little bit more.
It's funny because at the airport, we do one of our specialty drinks is the raspberry lemon drop, which we utilize with Grey Goose citron, Contro, fresh squeezed lemon juice, a little simple syrup, and some Chambord to give it that roux, that hue, and that color. But it's amazing how many people sometimes will ask us to sub out tequila. And I've had a couple of tequila old-fashioned sub requests. And of course, it's your cocktail. Make whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, some of the tequilas can get smoky. The barrel-aged ones.
Kind of to your point about the Mai Tai point, one of the minute talking points I was making of the week, kind of doing some research, is Flankers, which is in Mandalay Bay, which is kind of like the lowbrow equivalent for all the game day crowd that just want wings and pizza and basic bar food before they mosey on over to Allegiant. They're doing a pop-up, I think, that starts Monday, all summer long, called Mai Tide. So really? a pop-up Polynesian themed tiki thing. I've only been in there once. I mean, I'm not really excited about spending $30 on wings.
We should. I think we'll have to do a tiki episode or something like that one of these days. A
tiki episode,
because it doesn't the one that's in the Italian restaurant open up pretty soon now that the sun's out. Tiki di Amore.
Yeah. I think so.
That's one of that's a local favorite. If you didn't know. Pretty cool place. Anyway.
So bitching points. I wake up to an email yesterday, a post on the Facebook page, and I'm
Are you talking about Mrs. Peaches or people complaining?
Both.
Oh, okay.
So, apparently, if you were an airport employee, just the minutia, that we have dedicated parking, and people within leadership came out and said in an email that if you sometimes, because airport personnel have second jobs sometimes, or they're running late or whatever, there is the ability that we can park with the general public and or passengers and pay a fee. We don't get any reduced rate. Where they came out and said that subsequently we're not supposed to do that anymore.
Not supposed to or can't?
Or can't. Well, our privileges could be revoked. So take
gotcha.
that. Could be.
One of the guys that I work with, he had his license suspended, didn't know it, went to renew his TSA card. They denied him because his license was revoked. So then he couldn't park in employee parking. So he had to park in the paid parking. And it took him a month to get it all figured out. So $18 a day that he worked.
Yeah.
So if we're not allowed to do that, what happens if you have an issue with your badge? I mean, it could be pretty messed up.
Well, and with the rebranding and repurchase of the bar I work at, Lucky Streak, we found out now that I once again carry a sheriff's card. So the Metro background badging is no longer enough. At least that's what they're telling us. But again, then it's another $65 revenue. Check.
That's just a cash grab from the state.
Of course it is.
Because we have to be fingerprinted and everything through the airport. But now we have to do a sheriff's card in addition to.
Which is the same officers that do it to us at the airport.
Yeah, it's such a fucking cash grab.
Do it to me one more time. But subsequently, I read that as I wake and rub the sleep from my eyes. And then 2 hours later, I'm doing some research on LVRJ. And guess who is Clark County government's employee to make the most money last year?
I know this.
Yeah.
Just because I've heard it before.
The Director of Aviation.
Director of Aviation, yes.
Folks, if you didn't know this, Clark County Aviation, DOA, all the agencies, it makes a lot of money for the city.
There's a reason we charge $15 for a beer. It's because they need to pay for their pools and their saunas and their Lamborghinis and whatever else they need.
And I didn't get this in your contract or my contract when we signed up with our respective culinary positions, but there was also a significant amount within that salary of longevity pay.
I don't understand how city employees can get paid that much money because you're doing it should be a civic duty. You're trying to, you're working for the city. You're working for the people. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
If you want to make your city a better place, you should just do it on your own, not your own dime, and be paid reasonably, but not excessively. That's just a me thing.
Where is our Mr. Smith Goes to Washington type of moment?
Yeah. Speaking of Washington, I just wanted to bring it up. Remember, so they're just trying to pass the no tax on tips bill in the budget right now.
Okay.
And it's apparently passed the Congress.
Ooh, excuse me.
But with a stipulation that it will be, it's in the bill, but it will be something that you have to itemize.
Okay. I've read that.
And so most people like me and you, we don't itemize. We can't itemize. I think it's a real pain in the ass to itemize.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is going to entail exactly, but for those of you that are excited about no tax on tips, it looks like it's going to have at least passed in the Congress, and it's going to the Senate now, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if they put any provisions on it, but. Like I said, in order to take the deduction, you're going to have to itemize, and I don't think I can itemize.
Sounds like an app opportunity.
Sounds like a lot of accountants are going to be making a lot more money if that's the case.
Pay Peter to pay Paul.
So the city says we have to have a sheriff's card now, and then if you want to get the deduction, you're going to have to pay somebody a lot of money to itemize. So
yeah.
Hey, if you make a lot, if you make some of the I've waited on. I know people that make $100,000 in tips.
Yeah.
So for them it would definitely be worth it. But for somebody like me, if you have to pay $3,000-4,000 to get a deduction, it's not going to be worth it.
Well, I know you were just in California this past weekend for the events you mentioned previously, but this upcoming weekend is Memorial Day weekend, which, as we know in America, is kind of the natural enrollment into summertime and travel and vacation. You got any plans for the weekend?
One drink, everybody knows the rules.
That's right. I probably had a couple at this point. Cheers.
It's a play on,
pizza.
Portnoy's pizza reviews.
Of course.
No, I'm gonna work, and actually, there's an event this weekend.
Yeah, early part of the weekend.
Yeah, early part of the weekend. But
I was thinking that we go down for the people, because there's a lot of people coming in and out, and not the burger spot. But maybe we make it. Not that that's not delicious.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe a few of us pop down and maybe see Ginger at the Hofbrau if she's working on Saturday and have a wee pint of the Maibach.
Has Alan? I wonder if Alan will be playing as well.
Bet you he will.
Alan's a big tuba player.
So obviously other than Friday for me, the rest of the weekend pretty chill. Back to work Sunday, Monday.
I'll be working Sunday, Monday as well.
High numbers, passenger count. This weekend was high, kind of like going from Memorial Day weekend in the future of what we're talking about to the past of last week's EDC numbers. Numbers were pretty good Sunday, Monday, and it's supposed to be today. So I read or looked up that they anticipated 525,000 attendees at EDC this past Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All to get blown away.
Yeah, Saturday night, I walked out of work and it was about 9:45, and I think the events start at 7:30 or 8 every night.
I only, on the way out, I only saw like 3 or 4 people that went, but I didn't work on Sunday. I worked Monday. So, and the one couple I ran into, they're like, we went one day and everybody was really rude and everything was expensive, so we sold our tickets for the next 2 days.
Now, I was talking to some people last night and they said, a tall boy beer was $22, which I was like, I mean, that's egregious, of course, but I saw
like a 6-pack of water was like $80.
Yeah.
Like a whole pizza was like $90.
But Joey Torres, who used to work at Home Plate, was telling me he was working at a stand out there, and like a pole had disconnected from some sort of signage and smacked a girl in the head, and she was
what? KO'd?
KO'd pretty good.
What?
Yeah.
Holy crap!
So the wind was definitely a blowing Saturday night. Now they said folks that were in it, they said it kind of calmed down around 11:30 midnight, which I guess is good because it goes till 5 a.m.
It's cool. It's a neat event, and I'm not poo-pooing it. We should have started out on a high note rather than a low note, but it is a neat event, and if you're young and you're partying, man, there's nothing like that in the world. The sets they create, the landscape, all that stuff is insane. It's on YouTube. You can watch clips. I think they filmed the whole thing. You can see it. Yeah. Used to be locally played on, I think they carried the YouTube feed on local TV stations. I remember watching it at McMullen's on Graveyard, watching the live feed.
With your MDMA or your Molly?
Both.
Or was that just your patrons at the time?
Yeah, that was the patrons. At 4 a.m, 5 a.m, when they got back, they're like, water and food. And they had, eyeballs that were like this big around. Dilated. Yeah. I remember, so I'm the older generation. When I went to a rave, it was in a warehouse in the city, and you had to know the password, and then you get in, and it was a bunch of just lasers and, flashing lights, strobe lights, and pretty cheesy DJ, old school DJ with, just vinyl. And that was it.
I know, I did read also that I know you're a big fan of Tesla, and I'm a fan of Tesla, and there's a lot of people out there. It's kind of calmed down a bit, maybe, in the zeitgeist.
In the zeitgeist. Well, I mean, I imagine so. Yeah. He's kind of out of the picture right now. So in American media circles, everything's a 24-hour news cycle. So once something goes away, it's gone.
But yeah, it's true. What'd you say? No. But Boring Company, who is boring tunnels underneath the Vegas Valley as we speak every day, is about to punch through and open the Encore station at Wynn here pretty quick. Yeah. Which will be, you have the convention center component, you have the Westgate component, I believe, you have Resorts World, and now Wynn, and then city officials are saying that a lot of the holdup over like the last 4 or 5 years, like this project has been doing 5 years and there's only 6 or 7 stations, like that's not progress, you know? But again, it's tunnels and it's fireproofing because, of course, you don't want to be down there and have a vacuum and everybody's toasted. But they feel like they've worked out the fire component and they feel safe going forward. So they're going to start doubling down more and opening more stations sooner than later. Eventually having throughout the valley, I want to say 164 stations? Over 100 stations eventually in the Vegas Valley, and then 65 miles of tunnel.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all based on the strip, or are they expanding to
everywhere.
the airport?
Airport, downtown, Summerlin, stadiums. Wow. I mean, impressive. Say what you will, because I know it's brought up flack in the past, and I've talked about this a lot behind the bar, is, the naysayers want to say that we should build a proper subway system and blah, blah, blah. Elon funded it,
Yeah, it's not paid for by the city at all.
And, it is a solution and it moves people quite quickly,
well, if you know anything about Tesla, they have the I don't remember what they're technically called, the robo taxis that are going to be driverless. Right. You'll be able to hop in those. It'll be very similar to a subway. It just won't be a train where you'll have to watch some crazy guy masturbate in the corner. Yeah. So I kind of think I like it a little bit better.
And that was just an oasis. So, I think we've talked about this in episodes past too, but it's like as much as you want to, boohoo and whatever Vegas is or isn't doing or whatever, we're kind of on the forefront of the country in some capacity, right? I mean, we have obviously state legislation too, and that, everything's not done overnight, but our neighbor California has been taking forever with their public rail network.
Well, I mean, that's just because the cost per mile, per foot, or whatever. There's actually a really good episode of John Oliver's show where he breaks down the cost and the numbers and the why. And I'm not, it's just if you want to learn more about the situation, look Google John Oliver and high speed rail in America.
Did he put a twist on things?
As he does every episode. There's always a banger at the end.
Maybe he should have a segment called Oliver's Twist.
Oliver's Twist. I think that's unimplied. Oh. It's there and everybody gets the joke.
All right, sorry. So we were starting to watch the latest episode of Cheers, but then that kind of got me on Spin This Way, like a squirrel moment. And I texted you yesterday of actors who were bartenders in their younger past before they became well-known and famous.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular one you give a tip of the cap to?
Well, the lists that I look at. So let me just preface this with, you and I both know when somebody comes into a bar and they're like, I was a bartender. What does that really mean? Like, you bartended your friend's party, or you did a wedding once, or you worked at the local pouring beers for a couple of weeks.
Sure.
I think being a bartender is a little more than just doing it for a weekend. That being said, I looked at a couple lists, and a couple of them I've actually met in real life. I think one of them was Mila Kunis. Mm-hmm. They said that she'd bartended for a while, and I'm like, she's very personable in real life and seems like a very genuine person. I think she would be a fantastic bartender, and of course easy on the eyes. Another one that I haven't met was I think George Clooney was on the list, and then Jake Johnson from New Girl was on the list, and I was impressed. I was like, he seems like he'd be a really cool guy to hang out with. He seems like a perfect bartender to me.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt, I guess, was bartending in Hawaii. He's from my state. He's from Washington State, up like Mount Vernon area, I believe, which is further up north. And I think Chris Pratt's a pretty cool guy. Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, one I've always kind of known about for a long time, and I was trying to look up a segment on YouTube from a talk show from so many years ago, but I mean, my go-to has always been Bruce Willis.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just became...
Yeah, he was on the list, yeah.
It just became more solidified and cemented from... I forget how many years ago it was now, but like John Goodman was on one of the late night talk shows, and whatever iteration it was. I think it was before... well, it may have been... Was it Letterman or was it Leno? But Goodman moved to New York City like in the early to mid 70s. He basically said he got there right before like SNL started. So he was in that moment in time where it was like magical. And even though it was pimps and, drug dealers and hookers on Times Square, there was like that artistic electric energy.
Yeah.
And even though this didn't really happen until the early 80s, he said, and I think he bartended for a time too, but he said on the Upper West Side at, what was the name of the bar? Cafe Central on Manhattan's Upper West Side, that Bruce Willis was the crown prince jester of that scene, that when he worked, people would show up because they wanted to watch him, because that thing that kind of transcended into him being eventually cast as David Addison in Moonlighting or whatever. He had it. He had the timing. He had the charisma.
He does have
the snarkiness or whatever.
All those things.
And then obviously with his success in movies, and then subsequently, rolled that back around with his partners Arnold and Sylvester, and did the Planet Hollywood concept there for a while. Now, another one that I didn't know but makes complete sense was John Hamm. So. Oh yeah,
he's another charismatic.
John, yeah. So he got to Hollywood as a young man from St. Louis. And gave himself till 30, and it was like literally like that last year when he was discovered with something else that eventually led to the Mad Men role. And he worked at a place called the Cork Bar. So I don't think that's still around out there in Los Angeles anymore.
Did you say Quarks or Cork?
Cork, like
Cork,
wine
like
and Cork.
Ireland. Cork.
Yeah, Cork. Yeah.
Gotcha. You sent me for a minute there, and I was like, Quarks, huh?
Okay. His eyebrows raised. So, yep. And he's behind the bar something else too. No, I'm kidding. But hey now. But it's kind of funny because doing some research too this week, you have those guys that just kind of took that into the next level career. And now you have these celebrities that start these celebrity liquor brands. And obviously we know What is your probably most acknowledged liquor brand that you know is out there?
I mean, if it has a celebrity name in front of it, I typically just don't.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, I know because of where we worked. I know Proper 12, which was
Connor.
Conor McGregor's, and like The Rock has Terra Minia or whatever.
Terramana.
I think probably the most famous one is Aviator,
Aviation.
which is Ryan, or Aviation, which is
Yep.
Ryan Reynolds gin. I believe he sold that though, didn't he? No,
Yeah, he did I think it was a cash out for
no. The most famous one was George Clooney with his
Casamigos.
Casamigos, and he minted a fortune off that. And the funny story with that is that it was just a kind of a joke with a friend, like
Right.
why don't we start our own tequila company? And
Yeah,
he did for like minimal investment, and he ended up selling it for a couple $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, him and his partner Randy Gerber and one other gentleman involved. I mean, and I think they kind of got in the trenches with it in 2013, and they had that flip to a major liquor conglomerate by like the early 2020s, and for like you said, over $1 billion. I don't know if it was two or not.
I've heard stories of like, especially with tequila now, that because they can only make so much agave, that some of these tequila brands, and it's funny because I just read an article 2 days before you text me the notes, saying that celebrity tequila brands are about to reach a reckoning because they're everywhere.
Yeah,
But I've heard that a lot of them don't even use agave; they just use sugar, like a simple, not a simple syrup, because there's not enough.
well, and that's the big.
And they add like a smokiness to it. It's just all added to it. It's not real.
And that's the big thing in American society right now is the biggest, I think, reposado out there is, Casamigos. But Casamigos puts additives in it. They put sugar in it. And
Yeah.
like Americans obviously have that sweet tooth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, give me more and more and more when there's like, those whole other brands out there like Lalo and a couple others that have no additives. So people are like, oh, it's good, but it's not that.
Yeah,
Because your taste buds have been tainted.
yeah. By sugar. I mean, it's.
But I mean,
sugar, sugar's the devil.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to give a shout out too to previous brands. I mean, like Jimmy Buffett when he was alive with his whole Margaritaville brand.
Yeah, Margaritaville.
With the
they even had a beer brand for a while.
Land Shark Lager.
Land Shark,
and then
yeah.
you had the
I
Margaret.
mean, who started that whole trend though? Was it Sammy Hagar? Like
I think
done
Jimmy
any
was
re-
ahead. I think Jimmy was ahead of him.
Was
So if Jimmy had like South Florida and the Caribbean,
There had to have been somebody that did it before.
well, yeah, in some capacity. But then Sammy just moved it over to Cabo Wabo and started with his
Way
tequila
to do
brand.
our research, Chris. We need to.
There's some lineage there.
Yeah. We got
but-
some.
But Sammy sold his Cabo Wabo brand, and now he's got the rum brand. I think he has a hard seltzer brand. So they're. I don't know if they're in the middle of their residency still with like various members of
Started.
with Van Halen or not.
Yeah.
But it's just pure fun for him at this point because his jet fuel is paid for by his liquor sales.
Can I tell you a funny story about Sammy?
Sure.
So, my friend Zach, I grew up with in high school. His mom was from Fontana. His family's from Fontana, and apparently they were neighbors with Sammy. And he used to be like this crazy kid. His dad was a massive alcoholic, and he would come over and raid, like help mow the lawn or whatever, raid the fridge, and just kind of was like not Eddie Haskell neighbor, just the kid that was always there and always helping himself around the house and helping people out. But said they told me that he was a great guy, wild kid in his youth, and he ended up making something of himself. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the rags to riches story, right?
yeah, it's kind of funny. You never know who your neighbor's going to be. You never know who you're going to know. Well, you already know that.
Right. Exactly. You never know who you're sharing the locker room with, or sharing that moment at a keg party in high school, or
Yeah.
learning how to ride a bike or swimming class or whatever the heck you do when you're
Yeah.
young, right?
Yep.
Have you listened to Scotty G lately?
I try to listen regularly. Yeah. I have my my podcast go-tos.
So he had a little quick bit the other day talking about how to brand, and he takes those calling questions. And basically he was kind of talking about how big business and things, how Google has 80% of the search market, and Amazon has 85% of the retail market. And he said,
Well, Amazon is really technically just a web services business now. They're more with a retail component. They do more web service business now.
oh, with AWS and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he was sitting there and like not scrutinizing Google, but basically like Google allowing like ChatGPT to exist when they had their own degree of AI, but they did not want to cannibalize their own brand. And basically Sam Altman and ChatGPT can very potentially outpace Google in like less
Well,
than a
they already
decade.
are. The search results have dropped.
Yeah.
And now people are just asking AI. They're just going straight to the chat GPT.
And then, Scott Galloway was also saying that there's more full-time, what do you call those people? Lobbyists that work for Amazon in the district, as in of Columbia, than there are sitting senators that make way more money.
Yes.
That tell these people how to think.
Yes.
And his lament for the week is when you're paid not to understand something, you're never going to understand it.
100%.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Well, like, let's not go on a political rant.
No, we're going to end it positive. So that's why I threw it out first before we.
I agree with Scotty G. If you don't listen to his podcast, he believes that they should break up all these large corporations because it lends to what some conservatives like to refer to as trickle-down economics, where you spread the pie, more slices of the pie, everybody gets a little piece of it. You have 4 slices of a pie, only 4 people get to eat it. You have 28 slices of the pie, 28 people get to eat it. So break up these companies, and I think Meta's under the gun right now.
Who is? Meta?
Zuckerberg, Meta. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough about the not
Enough
drinking
about that.
stuff.
Let's start wrapping this one up. Cheers, episode 14 called "Let Me Count the Ways." Diane Chambers is devastated to learn that her cherished childhood cat, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, has passed away. Seeking comfort, she turns to her friends at the bar, but finds them preoccupied with the Boston Celtics game. The group is engrossed in the game due to the prediction from an MIT professor, Marshall Lipton, who forecast the Celtics' loss based on his computer analysis. So you've got the whole...
that scene was so funny to me. He's like, according to the Van Allen belt, this is gonna... And I'm like, what does the Van Allen belt have to do with... Or the radiation coming from the Van Allen belt is going to cause them to win the game? I was like, what the heck?
So before DraftKings and all the sports betting apps, you have this MIT professional that's sitting at the Cheers bar, and then subsequently Sam and Coach try and short the game, and they bet against the Celtics. And how dare they?
Yeah.
While everyone else is at the bar cheering them on.
Yeah, that's
and
sacrilege.
And then they're quietly, wishing that ill will on the Celtics.
Wait, so did they win or lose? I forgot the.
They lost. So
the Van Allen belt didn't have anything to do with.
Correct.
Oh, that's good. Because I was rolling up. My eyes were rolling over so hard when I heard that.
Right. But why Carla and Norm and Cliffy and all the other sorts were sitting there watching the game, Diane's a little upset that no one's grieving for her cat. But then Sam, in a moment of their ongoing, as we're into episode 14, if not growing, continued sexual tension.
Norm had a funny moment where he's like, where they're like, she's like, nobody's paying attention. He turns the TV off. And then he goes over and tries to help her, console her. And as soon as the commercial breaks over, he's like, okay, thanks, bye. It's like, wow, that's crazy.
And then as Sam does see her need or some empathy, he takes her in the office to talk to her. And obviously, she does see his soft side and whatever. And then is once again confused as they go to the credits. Yeah. Because we're 14 episodes into season 1. With what is a season back in the early 80s, 25, 28?
28 episodes.
And I forget when it, ultimately comes to the apex, but it was just another scenario of sexual tension and frustration.
So I used to talk about this a lot on my old podcast where we would talk about lightning in a bottle. And the cast of Cheers is one of those instances where they struck lightning in a bottle. Their casting is immaculate. Like everybody in that show clicks 100%. And the energy between Sam and Diane is palpable. It's very, very, it's neat to see. It's tense, it's like there, you get it.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm waiting for the moment. You know what I'm waiting for?
What's that?
The first time we get to see Cliff and Norm sit next to each other. Yeah. Because up until this point, Cliff is not a regular cast member. He's a guest star, I believe. And then, so I'm waiting for that moment where they become their buddies, the go-to, quintessential bar buddies that show up at your bar every single day.
Absolutely. So, that I am a big Foo Fighters fan.
Yeah, I saw the news.
Yeah, last week, quite suddenly and without any sort of Heads up, Josh Freese, who was the replacement drummer for long-term Foo Fighter Taylor Hawkins, who passed a couple years ago, was suddenly fired.
He was fired or he left?
He was fired.
Wow.
He got the phone call. I don't know. Again, I'm not privy to that information. I don't know if he pulled him in the studio 606 or whatever, but it seemed rather of a harsh way that he was basically just given a phone call like, hey, thanks for like the last 2 years. And
hey, man, if given the opportunity, if I could play one show with the Foo Fighters, I would do it.
Yeah.
You know, let alone 2 years. So you can't really, I mean, honestly, I love the band, and I know how much you love the band, but the Foo Fighters is and always will be.
Well, and you know,
Dave Grohl.
when Taylor passed a couple years ago of a massive heart attack down in South America, I mean, I sat there and capitulated that, you know, as the Foo Fighters as we know it would never be the Foo Fighters anymore. You know, Dave Grohl is a successful musician. He's a creative individual, and whatever his next iteration would be, but I thought he would literally, you know, put that to bed. Because Taylor Hawkins was so paramount. He wasn't just a bandmate to Dave Grohl. He was a brother. I mean, you could tell that those guys
they were very close.
So when they announced that they were going to go forward and start touring again with Josh Freese, I was like, okay, really? And so
it has to go on. The show, you know, it's like my attitude towards anything is that, you know, the show must go on, and you just kind of, because you have, you know, like even doing something simple as a podcast like this, you know, like sure, there's days where I don't want to do it, but, you know, like I know that there's like 1 million people out there watching right now. I know you're on Facebook, and they're all like, we need more Darren and Chris.
Right.
We need more Darren and Chris.
And what do you tell me when we started this? You're like, you just got to do it, and we're gonna figure it out.
Exactly. And like the set will change. It will grow. We know this, and I guarantee you, there's people out there complaining about it. But guess what? It'll get there. Everything gets better.
And we had some positive talk from the remote from McMullen's last week. But yeah, I mean, like Jason Bateman said in his podcast with Will Arnett and Sean, I can't think of his last name right now, on Smartless, he goes, yeah, no idea Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings, you know? But, you know, I mean, obviously Nirvana before, Foo Fighters now. I mean, it sounds like they're going to go on. Obviously, the low-hanging fruit in the conversation was the speculation of Rufus Taylor, who is sons of Queen's drummer Roger Taylor.
Yeah.
Who has an uncanny fucking likeness to Taylor Hawkins, which would be weird in one regard.
Yeah.
Beard and all. And then the other like lowest hanging fruit is Taylor Hawkins' son, who is still a teenager, Shane Hawkins.
Yeah.
Who is at this point, if you look at the band's website, you know, Taylor had a side project. You know, he was from Laguna Hills, California. His side project with his high school buddy was called Chevy Metal, and it was self-described as California butt rock. Ooh. So it's all like that late 70s, early 80s, just like that heavy riff groove, you know.
I know it well.
Yeah, and I've seen them a couple times at Vamps over there on, was it Sahara?
Oh, yeah? You gotta let me know next time.
Yeah.
Just like this guy didn't tell me when he was going to see Eddie Vedder. I'm just like, I still can't get over that, Chris.
Sorry.
That's all right.
But so those are like the most talked about replacement drummers, which I get both sides of it. But again, it just kind of seems... I've kind of put the Foo Fighters on a shelf, not musically. I still listen to it, but it was just like you said, like once there was no Taylor, it should be a close of a chapter. That's my opinion. It's their band. I'm not, you know, they do what they want.
Just like everything, it goes on. Everything evolves.
Yeah.
Life is constant.
But Foo Fighters touring makes a lot of money for a lot of people.
Exactly. And then, you know, and that's the point. You know, it's not just Dave Grohl about what he wants and what the fans want. It's about their family and everybody that they pay and the people that make money.
Sure.
You know, and there's probably 50 roadies that are on the salary, you know, like, and different engineers and all kinds of stuff that are involved. At least probably, I'm going to say at least 100 people.
Yeah.
Involved with all that.
Absolutely.
Drivers, you know, caterers, whatever. You know, I'm sure he has a bartender, and if he needs one, you know, if he's ever willing, and he's out there listening right now.
On one of the lists too, it said
will be a bartender for him.
On one of the lists too, it said Dave Grohl at one point was a bartender back in DC before, but I was like, I've never really read that before because all I remember was doing like, you know, drywalling or whatever in California before Kurt Cobain made the call.
Who was it that used to have a bar on the stage? Was it like Mark McGrath from what was that band he had?
Smash Mouth? No.
Summer Day. They had that song Summer something. Summer.
I mean,
Gosh.
I know it's late 90s, early 2000s. But
Yeah. He always had like one of his riders was to have a bar on stage with a bartender,
Gotcha.
so he could have a drink if he wanted to.
Well, as we start to wrap this up, I know that you were in California at the various parks over the weekend for the various events, but I was working on a list of the top 6 bars that I think that you think should check out in 2025 in Las Vegas.
Sure.
Only one of which is on the Strip. Everything else is out in various other parts of the Las Vegas Valley. You can find that list at bars.showme.vegas.
Sell it, Chris.
Sell it, baby. Bars.showme.vegas. It's not a .com, it's a .vegas. It's a new extension that's out there. Go in there, register if you're not already in the group. Sign it and check it out and let us know what you think in the group.
Yep.
I know that we talk about this in other episodes, but we are working on some bigger components. I was telling you when we were setting up that I had some good reach out calls to some bar owners here in town. So things are starting to evolve. I mean, as we turn 21, where I guess we're growing up on episode 21 a little bit.
Woo!
Any closing thoughts?
Just make sure to tell your friends about us on Facebook. Have them join the group. We'd like to grow the group.
We're past 600.
Yep. Subscribe on YouTube. Obviously, that helps. Anything you can do to help us grow. We do have stickers. If you have a local bar that you want to, if they have stickers all over the walls, feel free to contact one of us.
Like my KC, my Malinois Shepherd mix, we will come easily mark your bar.
Yeah. Or we'll send you stickers. I don't even mind. You just let me know.
Yeah. So
we want them all over the world.
Again, bars.showme.vegas. And what is our tagline, sir?
Sip, savor, sip, socialize, shine.
Yeah. Apparently the Lucky One lemonade's hitting right.
Yeah. Miss Peaches.
Sip, socialize, shine. That's our tagline. This is episode 21 wrapped up. Thanks for checking us out.
And support.
Yeah, Lucky One.
Lucky One.
Early adopters out here right now are Smith's Total Wine and Spirits. And I found, he told me locally at Terribles, of all places. So.
And, like I said, 10 drinks. Everybody knows the rules.
Sip, socialize, shine, guys. Thank you.
All right.